I'd like to welcome our guest, Mr. Steve Chucri. Our main guest today serves as a District 2 supervisor for Maricopa County. In addition, he is also the CEO of the Arizona Restaurant Association. Joining us now, Mr. Steve Chucri. Welcome, Steve. It's been a while since you've been on Mesa Morning Live. I know you've been busy. Tell us what's going on in your life.
Mark, it's great to see you, and you're a great friend. So to not be able to see you in person is a disappointment, but this is going to have to do. And if I might, just for a minute, say something about Eric. I think Eric's product is wonderful. Restaurants need all we can get. And Eric, kudos to you for the great job you're doing. And Joe, just before you took over, I got to meet with your predecessor and see the construction project and things going on with Paz de Cristo, and the work you all are doing is terrific. And I remember as a young boy being born and raised in Mesa, going to Paz de Cristo. And so we are well aware of the work you do and are very grateful. And then to the guy sitting across from you, Mr. Cordes, this guy who calls himself the mayor, John is probably one of the best and biggest cheerleaders we've had for the city of Mesa. And we're lucky to have him as mayor, and I'm lucky to call him a friend. So with that, I will tell you that, we're doing the best we can as an industry. And as Eric can tell you, and many others who are familiar with our industry, that COVID-19 came with no playbook, and it certainly has thrown the restaurant industry, not only here in Arizona, but across the country for a loop. And let me just tell you two quick things, and I'm sure you've got questions. First and foremost, restaurants in Arizona last year had total sales of $13.4 billion. In the month of April alone this year, when COVID hit, as we all know, at the unfortunate perfect time, with spring training going and everything, we lost $815 million in sales. This year across the United States, this is a huge number, we were slated to sell just under $1 trillion worth of food. We were slated to sell over $900 billion worth of food in the United States. To date, we have lost as an industry across the country $250 billion. So there's a good part of this story, and as many will tell you, that restaurateurs are some of the most resourceful, innovative people I've come to know, and I'm happy to talk about some of those things later in the show as to just what we're doing to try and keep that connection to our patrons and our guests.
Wow, those are staggering numbers, and not just numbers, but the amount of jobs that goes along with that. Tell us a little bit about how many people are employed, or pre-COVID were employed by restaurants in the state of Arizona. Any rough ideas?
Oh, absolutely. We have employed 230,000 people in the state of Arizona, and keep in mind that is only in the food service industry. That is not a cafeteria at a hospital. That is just what you see in the restaurant space. So when you look at that, and then you look at the ripple effect, sadly, that came in the springtime with COVID-19, we have displaced 70% of our workforce. Our daily payroll went from 14.5 million per day down to 2. So if that gives you any kind of fear factor, it should. And we were successful, I'm happy to say, thanks to Crescent Crown there in Mesa and many other folks as part of our industry, to raise $400,000 in what we call Arizona Restaurant Strong, to give $500 grants to those displaced workers. And Mark, they still haven't all come back. I think we're probably at 40% displaced now, which is still troubling. But as we start to ratchet back up from 50% occupancy, hopefully soon, to 100%, we'll be able to bring those employees and oftentimes family members back into the fold. But it's wreaked havoc on our personnel and our employees.
Well, that's a shame. And I know, I think we both have a place up in the White Mountains of Arizona where we escaped to, and it's been devastating. I've spent most of my summer up there, hence the Santa growth. It's devastating to watch all those little small mom and pop restaurants that just couldn't make it. You know, they've boarded up, and you just pray and hope that they can come back. But it's scary.
It is, Mark. And we've lost about 1,000 restaurants since this hit, which represents about 9 to 11% of the total restaurants across the state of Arizona. And a lot of them aren't going to come back. Now, on the bright side, we've seen expansion. We've seen people like Los Sombreros who I just told you I was there Friday night, and their green corn tamales are the best, by the way. But we've got to see them grow. We saw them grow from their original location in Scottsdale to Phoenix there in Camelback, and now to Mesa, which is wonderful. So what you see, that's a great example of what we're witnessing. They already had those expansion plans. They already were a part of those expansion plans. They had already ensued. So they're not going to just pull the plug. They're going to still have to pay the rent. So they might as well open and see what they can do. We have very similar situations with other mom and pops across the valley who are in the midst of expanding their restaurants and certainly couldn't pull the plug. It made no sense to do that. So while some of those closures are being offset by new openings, which is wonderful, we're still going to have a net loss of several hundred restaurants across the state.
You know, you mentioned earlier that restaurateurs are very resourceful, and they've had to be. They've had to do things a little bit differently and think outside, call an audible, if you want to use a football term.
Yeah.
A lot of to-go. People are just hanging on through that. What are some other ways the restaurants are going to evolve and change?
Well, there's a few things. First, you mentioned it. Within 48 hours of the governor calling for the shutdown of restaurants, which we understood at the time that had to be done, we pivoted to takeout. We, as you probably are aware, have been very successful with our Arizona Restaurant Weeks. We quickly, within, like I said, 48 hours, pivoted to takeout weeks. And we were able, over the course of about 10 to 12 days, upload 700 restaurant menus for restaurants across the state of Arizona. We cut 3 commercials. We bought advertising. We got the word out. And now, Mark, what was once 6% of your profit and loss statement for a restaurant, which was takeout, has now become 20% of your profit and loss statement. And that's here to stay. I think people are going to like the convenience. And where we need to get more nimble and agile is to make sure that we can take our menus and bring them right into your living room, your dining room, or your kitchen for you to enjoy. So packaging is going to be a very big, important factor going forward, because not all restaurants will allow their whole menu to be purchased and for takeout, because it just simply doesn't hold well. You're going to see a lot of that happening. To-go alcohol has been wildly popular with consumers and others alike. Of course, it needs to be done responsibly, and we want to make sure it's done responsibly. But I think you will see legislation coming in January at the legislature to make that more of a permanent fixture in what restaurants have to offer and provide. And then lastly, I would just tell you it's technology. Technology, as you can now see going into a restaurant, you scan a QR code, the menu pops up on your phone. You'll continue to see that in the front of house. You'll likely start to see automation and table service for paying for your meal occur. And then in the back of the house, I think we're going to see more robotics and other things instead of people, just because of labor rates getting so high and having such a constriction on the industry and trying to make up for lost ground that we've experienced in recent months with COVID-19.
That makes sense. And Steve, since I got you and the mayor kind of together here, talk a little bit about the grant that Maricopa County and City of Mesa are involved with.
Sure. Well, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Supervisor Chucri and Supervisor Sellers, who are the 2 great representatives for the county and that represent Mesa. They have really been advocates for our community, and we appreciate all that they've done to help our citizens, weather the storm. So, specifically, Steve, I know very recently you extended the small business grant program, which, $25,000 grants for businesses of 50 or less, and it includes nonprofits, which is great. With a lot of the nonprofits in Mesa, like Paz de Cristo and others, are really much in need. So on behalf of the community, I just want to say thank you for that. And that came shortly after the county also extended some generous benefits on rental assistance that we're administering, over $6 million. So that we are all very nervous about what's going to happen when the moratorium on evictions expires in the near future. We are very afraid we might see another spike in homelessness. And so thank you to the county for staying ahead of that, and then also the additional assistance you're offering for small business grants. Very much appreciated, and there's a lot of people in Mesa that are going to be really, I think we're going to avoid homelessness. We're going to keep businesses open. It's going to be very successful. So thank you.
Well, no, thank you, John. I think Eric spoke about it earlier, about the great talent we have in the city of Mesa with the employees in the leadership of John Giles and others, and that's very true. And I think that's reflected in what the mayor just said. Look, this is a partnership. Mesa will always be home to me. I was born and raised there. My grandfather started a car dealership in 1928 there, and so it's always going to be home. And it's, as you heard at the outset of this show, it's growing and growing well over 500,000 people. And so we have to make sure we're serving our community. And what the mayor pointed out, Mark, about having to change up the grant amounts, it wasn't working. And so I campaigned 8 years ago on bringing a business mindset to Maricopa County, and that's exactly what we've done. And as part of that, it's bringing good communication with your fellow leaders like John Giles to say what's happening there. We don't always agree, John will tell you that, but we agree a heck of a lot more than we disagree. So we came back, we figured out how can we make it work. We changed some of these amounts, we made sure we were communicating it out, and now it's going very, very well. And to John's point, John has stepped up as well as the city council on homelessness. Mesa has have partnerships with New Leaf and other entities to try and help our homelessness and not say it's a Phoenix problem or a Scottsdale problem. They're looking at it head on, and they're one of the few cities, I will add, that has done that. So it only made perfect sense for us to step up in this way to try and make sure that we can do rental assistance so we don't see our homeless population increase.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit about, I know you're the head of the Arizona Restaurant Association. What kind of work is involved with that? What do, I never realized, you never stop and think how many people are employed by restaurants, but it's a pretty powerful group. What happens on your end there?
Well, I'll tell you, I've had the good fortune to be in this job over 18 years, and this has probably been the most stressful and difficult year to see restaurateurs crying. People I would never imagine would cry, but to see what the devastation has done to their business. We are a passion-driven industry. We are a people-driven industry. So to even be able to hide a smile with a mask is hard for us to accept, not because of the safety precautions, but because of we are the hospitality industry. I was with Dick Marriott last year at an event. We both sit on the board of the National Restaurant Association. He said, never forget, he pointed his finger, that we are the industry of happy. And we are the industry of happy. And I'm proud to say that we have risen to the occasion with this pandemic. And as an association, we stood with our members. Our job was to make sure that we did what we could to make them continue to do business. And it comes down to three simple things for us. It's advocacy, it's education, and it's collaboration. And advocacy was very front and center in working with our various governments and our governor's office to ensure restaurants could still stay open in a safe way and still feed the public. And many people don't realize, Mark, and to be candid, I didn't realize until this pandemic how much of a food source we are to the senior population. The senior population depends on us for at least one, if not two meals a day, because they're cooking for one person and they simply don't want to. So a lot has come out of this, a lot of good has come out of it. And I think most importantly, you saw the perseverance and the might of restaurateurs across this state come together and keep our doors open and keep pushing forward.
Well, that's great. Well, let's keep it safe. Let's keep it, I like that, the industry of happy. And thanks for, I never thought I would say this to you, but thanks for being a sane voice. Our neighbors to the west, you saw what the governor of California said yesterday. He thinks that people ought to have to wear a mask into a restaurant and then put it back on between bites. So thanks.
Yeah, I did see that, Mark, and then I saw right after an Israeli company came up with a mask that's $3 that you can actually pull a lever and it will open up the mask so you can take a bite. I will tell you, my mother and grandmother always said, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. So I say that fascinates me, what the governor did in California. It's very fascinating.
I would like to mock it. That's hilarious. I would love to mock it, but the way I look at it, I just shrug my shoulders and say, thanks for increasing my home value here in Arizona. Because I think there are just certain people that are just going, this is insanity.
Sure.
Let's face it, Mayor, a lot of your people that are moving into your city are coming this way.
No question about it. And I think we probably have a lot of restaurant-oriented people watching this show today because of Steve's presence and obviously the emphasis on restaurants. So if you don't mind, let me just make a quick pitch. We have been working with Steve and the Restaurant Association and restaurateurs in Mesa during the pandemic, trying to do all we can to offer the assistance we can. Feeding Mesa is a program that we've launched to try to work with a lot of local restaurants. I've spent more time in restaurant kitchens over the last 3 months than in my entire life, so watching and supporting some of the restaurants that are closed out front, but their kitchen's open and they're providing meals for first responders, for assisted living facilities, you know, for charities and hospitals. So that's been really fun and rewarding to see. And also to that end, we've launched a new program in the city of Mesa called Al Fresco, where we're encouraging restaurants that maybe to this point haven't had outside dining, or maybe they've had some and they want more. We're relaxing a lot of the city codes that would have been a barrier to that previously, and also incentivizing, offering up to $1,000 to buy the chairs and the umbrellas and the things you might need to encourage more outside dining. So thank you to Steve and to the industry for being so creative and so innovative. It's been amazing to see what creative people that are so creative in the kitchen, how creative they can be business-wise too, to keep their businesses going during this very challenging time.
And those of you that are sitting at home, we've all got our favorite restaurants. Try and frequent them. Try and tip, maybe a little extra tip, because the servers need it and the whole staff needs it. And also what I've tried to do, I've bought gift cards for future use, thinking that the little cash flow infusion right now might help our favorite restaurants. So everything you can do will come back. You know, you want to keep your favorite restaurants in business, and we can all help that.